Welcome to another episode of Mindful Drawing. Today I was inspired by the sun rising out to the east and interacting with our small wall of plants that tend to grow there and enjoy that space and their color in the kind of golden hour of the morning, as well as just the flutter of light and softness of the time that they occupy there. Invite you to bring an image of something like that, sun or light, that inspires you and makes you interested in taking on a little act of mindful drawing. I've got my colored pencils here to have a little play and fun with this, and we'll just pick a few of them and begin to maybe trace what we see inside of the mind. And since we have purple, we'll begin there and perhaps just starting a trajectory lightly with the pencil, making a mark along like the extension of a branch, perhaps moving its way with little knots and redirections, twisting and turning, just a smooth movement of the pencil to feel out the page for a little while. A light back and forth, or an extending around and through. And as it fills on its trajectory, we can come back along and begin to create some branchings, these kinks and bends as the branches grow from their interaction with gravity, creating their own structure and resistance to bending or falling. And as it seems fit along the way, finding a language to the lines. Are they smooth and sinuous, or do they turn quick with tight elbows and corners, looking inward to what might form in your mind as you think about the plants in your life or just out there in the world? How do they bend their elbows and extend to map outwards and fill the space of the sun? And this beginning helps us bring an image to our mind and also develop a bit of a technique along the way that can guide us. It doesn't have to be representational of any specific thing or to look like a type of plant or flower, but take from internally as we bring our awareness to the images that come when we think of indoor plants or ones that inspire us. Just let that be the guide as we create a hybrid or amalgamation of these. Here a bit of a light branching structure is developed, and from there we can begin to continue the kind of fractalness of the design nature, continue to branch and extend, perhaps bring more attention to our fingertips as we apply pressure to the page, feeling the smooth extension of the pencil or pen as it deposits its medium here. Just following your branch, curve, elbow, perhaps reinvigorating lines you've traveled before to give them presence with the establishment of the technique and the extending out at various diminishing scales and density across the page. And as we embody that control of technique so that we can internalize it like a breathing exercise, bring it into our focus, extend our awareness into our fingers and our hands and our wrists here, and allow some of our deliberate manipulation from our eyes to drift into the background, and trust the movement of our hand, the quirks of where we might just choose to make the mark, subtle variations in the application of a fundamental technique like breathing with our fingertips. And this refinement of the space of the page into a living, branching structure, emergent from both our visual processing as it sees and reacts to new configurations in every motion, as well as our motor system just tracking in the space we give it, taking up a little space here on the page as an exercise in creativity and expression, and of finding a technique of entering into the space of awareness. And we begin to take a few deep, intentional breaths of grounding here in the space of our mindful vision of nature. Breathing in and letting it fall out. Breathing in and letting it drift out. And then bringing that in connection with our drawing and the motion of our body. So we may breathe in to locate the space of the pencil on the page. And breathe out as we move over the curve. Locating with our breath in and expressing with our breath out. Perhaps the shape of the technique and the expression with that often inconsistent double breath that we experience as we let out our full extension of our lungs guides its curvature, the speed of its motion, connects us from the inside and our bodily rhythms of the breath to the outside with our motions of the drawing. Breathing in to locate and out to flow. Whether those are small interactions of the terminal branches or the greater swoops and bends of the trunk formation, the plants having this system of growth that operates at many scales, adapting to their environment, reflecting what they encounter. And if you're using a single medium like a pen or graphite pencil, you may begin to track over and give some thickness or weight to previous marks as they support the extension through the gravity of this space on the page. Or if you have various mediums available to you, maybe an opportunity to hold on to something else and let that start to occupy here a bit of the space. I'm going to begin to extend some of these outwards with the same kind of gentle scalloping technique to form the potential space of some leaves. Whatever they may be that forms in your mind, just letting it move its way around here on the page. Keeping that potential connection to the breath as it extends with the relaxation and recalibrates with the in-breath. And our plants here can take on any character or inspiration that comes into our vision as we let that attention inward to our memory, our creativity, as part of what guides our actions. To take some time there and just be with what might form in our mind's eye, letting the strokes fill the page, missed movements becoming opportunities to extend new details, to even in a way discover new forms from our mind's ability to combine imagination with motion and flow, even extending beyond the observed or the representational and into the found generative. Letting these practices with a creative exercise like drawing bring some of that space of creativity and flow into our attention for a few moments as we explore what else we might discover out there in a simple technique of moving the hand, guiding the pressure of a pen or pencil, flowing lines out onto the page. You may even begin to allow the eyes to drift from focus, to not be so tied necessarily to where the line or curve ends up. Just let that expression of breath, the in and the out, flow here for a few moments. And these soft eyes that gently guide emotions of our hand, keeping us aligned with the space that's forming and emerging here on the paper. They are guides. They're observers or witnesses of the action. part of our body, part of our expression, as we can bring some awareness and gratitude to what these eyes do for us without our even thinking, as they move us through space, capture motion around us, give us a precision of interface to our environment. They pull in moments darting around. We can let them softly continue that meandering motion through the environment, picking up what they may need to have a sense of time and place, and then further processing that for us, simulating the larger world, and taking a bit of time while leveraging their background task, their strong influence on our interface and awareness with the world, vision often being so strong and easy to forget its influence. And from time to time to take some moments to allow that high attention, high influence and interaction to drift from the foreground into the background, especially in a medium such as the drawing here that may feel to so heavily rely on vision. Can we allow ourselves to trust the hand, trust a technique, or even just trust in the feeling of the motion for a little while, and let the eyes become passengers? Perhaps you begin to close them. In a breath in, locate yourself on the page, and then let the eyes close and just track a path. And if that's comfortable, to allow it to form something new in the drawing. Trusting again the fingers and your mind's image here of the page. Finding a rhythm of breath, opening and surrendering, and then witnessing. Many things will likely not align. They will drift away from what we originally imagined the path to be. But in that, we have new potential, new opportunity. And in the surrender, we can find a relaxation from control or attention, so that when we may come back to the space of our vision, we can connect with its tracking, and we can trust the separation from it for a while, to allow our other senses to be a guide in that exercise of expression. And use the breath to help center us in those moments of potential discomfort as we give up some of our most intense levels of control with the breath and ride the waves of sensation from the image in the mind of the drawing, from the feeling on the fingertips of the motion of the stroke. And what do you begin to see in these glimpses inward? What maybe creative act or expression starts to tickle on the inside of the mind? Feeling the world with eyes shut, with senses open. And then letting those eyes drift back and re-witness what might have been taking place here if you had them closed. Finding moments of ambiguity, disconnection as opportunity, and entering into the space there of this plant form, emerging from our actions, starting to layer in potential detail, flow, color, texture, overlap, and intensity. To bring that awareness and attention, the mindfulness to the inhabitation by our vision, or just to continue expressing marks to this technique of the short stroke, filling in some of the space of color, of texture. And since I have these 3 pencils here, I think I'll drift to another and just begin to explore and play in the image in my mind of light kind of glowing off the edges of many of these things, tracking across a direction, adding volume and dimension. Find what you begin to see in the highlight of edges that stand out to the eye. Where do you find a shimmering coating or bathing in that morning light of sunrise? The warmth of relaxation, of a healthy space of growth, of extending, expanding ourself into the light of the sun and the day. And just take this time, a few minutes or hours, whatever you may have, and draw with what you've found. Explore these shapes and edges. Highlight. Is anyone maybe following along live or just enjoying this in the recording? Give yourself a few very deliberate blinks, closing the eyes tight, opening them, doing it perhaps with our breath of breathing in and bringing some tension as the expansion and the closing combine. And in the relaxation of the breath and the opening, allow them to see again, to recalibrate into what is emerging on the page, to introduce you anew to what you've been creating here, and find new engagements as that awareness grows from the continual rebirth and re-expression. And find to bring a little tone to these, just to give them some material, some weight to hold the light. And these short, mindful drawing exercises don't have to end in any finished form or fully expressed concept or idea. They're just the seedling moments that we can draw out from ourselves when we give a little space to enter into our awareness, to release some of our inhibition, to relax with a medium of drawing. So feel free always to continue on with something that might be emerging and inspiring to you, to start again, perhaps with more of that creative intention, to creating a piece, or to let it go, to take the paper and give it to a friend, or crumple it, recycle it, flip it over, and write notes on the back. I like to bring a little awareness at the end of the session back to the body, as we have to bring it into our space again. And this kind of quicker shading action of drawing, we can get a little caught up in ourselves. And I like to try to make sure my breath is even, and that I'm bringing my mind's attention to how my hand is moving, how it's holding the pencil, how it's tracking the shapes, maybe having to realign and distort itself relative to what I might encounter. Very quick exercises of both warm up and cool down to the body as it tracks with our eyes and fills in the space here. Drawing from the energy of the relaxation and the resting session, but keeping it in our mental awareness to not let it run away from us. To have that energy be a part of us, to guide us, but not control us. And to know ways of tapping into that burst of creative expression when we see a thing and we want to express it outwards. Sometimes needs that space for the finding, to remember to give ourselves that space and draw from both within and without, as the breath guides us. And I come back here just a bit to my first purple veining structure, letting that give more weight in the darker color balance some of the light and the verdant. And just to enjoy some of that vibrant expression here of the purpley blue. There's a bit of a contrast to the light of the yellow. As well as a complement there to the green. Enjoying what our eyes bring in, whatever that may be for you now, whether it's the black and white contrast of pen and ink, the soft and subtle variations of graphite on paper, or this more intense spectrum of colors from the colored pencil or pens. A little exuberance from our relaxation as we prepare for our next part of the adventure in the day. Energized, excited, and ready to go out there and engage. Thanks for anyone who wanders across this. I hope you enjoyed following along or just listening in. But feel free at any time to grab a piece of paper and pick up a pencil and just start to draw along with whatever you interpret, whatever you feel, whatever guides you from the exercise. There are no intended outcomes. While the thing may sometimes look like an object, at others they're just wandering lines across a page, fields of tone and color, possible expressions, worlds emerging from our inner mind, and a chance to let that work through the space of the paper and guide us. Well, it was nice to have a little time to pre-record a few of these exercises, both for myself as I was able to continue to engage in this practice, which I often only get a few moments in the morning in a sketchbook, in these slightly longer exercises where I work through the breathing and work through the expression, are always extremely grounding and relaxing for me, and I hope you can get the same. If you've enjoyed this journey or any of the others in this mindful drawing practice, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and let me know what you think below in the comments. How have these inspired you, or what have you created in our short engagements together in awareness and creativity? I look forward to seeing you again in the new year, and as always, draw well.